Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Empowered Teams podcast. As you'll see, we've changed things around a bit because we've got someone new with us. So, as every time, I'm Eric. Here on the left, you've got Toby, and the new team member in the center is Phil. Hey, Phil, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Really pleased to be joining you guys. Looking forward to this conversation today around data as a team sport. I've lived my life around data, massive passion for it, so I'm really looking forward to having the conversation.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess the first question is, what's this title about? What do we mean by data as a team sport?
Yeah, well, that's so. I think traditionally, when you consider data, often from my experience within organisations, everyone suddenly refers to, oh, that's going to be something that IT do. It's
Yeah,
the technology department. They do stuff with data.
yeah,
And actually, when you really consider it, data is about everything. Pretty much most organisations now, apart from those, well, unfortunately in the UK, we tend not to manufacture as much as we used to do nowadays. So we're kind of like quite a service economy and delivering an intellectual economy on. And if you think about gaming, you think about creative industries, a lot of this, pretty much all of it, and information management is all
yeah,
around data. It's all about that. So actually, the hypothesis for this is data as a team sport because I genuinely believe that it is across organisations. Organisations that are really successful are
yeah.
the ones that understand it from top to bottom. That data, there is value to data. There used to be, it became quite a cliche within the data industry. Like data is the new oil. Well, it's not
Okay, yeah,
because it was like, it's something it was that was going to make you your fortune. I would say actually there is an relevance to calling data as the oil, but it's what greases the engine. It's actually
nice. Yeah,
what generates everything throughout the company. So if you're selling t-shirts, for instance, right? So you think, well, what the hell selling t-shirts got to do with data? Well, some dude's got to come online, look at that T-shirt, and go, "Oh, I quite like that T-shirt," and then you're gonna have to put your details into that, yeah.
yeah,
And then you're gonna make sure that details are correct, and then you've got to choose your size of that and the color of it, and then you make your order, yeah.
yeah,
Soon as that happens, you want that data to be correct because you want to know: have I got their email address? Is that the right email address? Have I ever spoken to this person before? They've ordered from me before.
yeah.
How have I got a delivery address so I can send the top as you know the importance, Eric, of getting the right delivery address when you're ordering outfits, don't you? Don't
Yeah,
we,
yeah.
guys?
So for a bit of background, we were trying to get Phil this nice sweater, and the company that customizes them for us is based in France, and either because they didn't want to send something over to the UK, where Phil is based, or because they completely messed up their data management. They got it sent over to another colleague in France, who then had to go around and get the package sent back over to the UK, a total mess. So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. And this is
exactly. So it goes to show, it's all the way right from the start of the journey.
yeah,
That is all about data. I mean,
yeah,
fundamentally, data. So I'll go back to my t-shirt analogy. So you put your order in, yeah. If
yeah,
that is wrong, any element of that initial interaction with that data is wrong, then that whole experience, that whole delivery is wrong,
yeah,
completely wrong. So actually, when someone says to you, "I'm in the t-shirt business," I say, actually, you're in the data business, and then you're selling t-shirts as well. And if you don't get that, and
yeah,
if your organization doesn't get that, that's where you start to get real problems within organizations. Organizations that what you call digital natives, so they were
yeah,
born in the kind of age of when we had internet and everyone's familiar with it. They get this. Your
yeah.
Airbnbs, your Ubers of the world, all they are is an algorithm. All they are just data, and then at the end of that, that data then has an output, which is kind of get me somewhere to stay or send me a cab somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I think following the t-shirt analogy, I think there's a great example out there. I was watching a few videos the other day about the there's this notion of fast fashion, and now we're actually switching over to instant fashion. And the reason for that is that there are these big companies out there, mostly based out of China, but not exclusively. Like I think there's like Shine and Asos and a few others. That what they did, and they completely changed the market, and everyone's trying to catch up. What they did is they said, instead of designing clothes and then selling them online, we sort of analyze data, try to find something that works, sell it online, and try to keep up with the trends. What they said is, no, we're just going to get people to produce 1,000 different items of clothing, just flood it online, just do tons of advertising, we'll see what sticks, and then we promote those items that people are actually buying, and the rest we just we cancel the orders. And so
Yeah.
they've come through building their business around rapidly creating massive data sets, which
Yeah.
is exactly, it's the TikTok method. You just create something that has a data generation power far beyond anything else. They've now completely overtaken the market. They're able to sell for cheaper. They can sell for lower quality, but they don't care because their designs are far, they're 2 or 3 trends in advance compared to everyone else, and they're killing it. There's tons of problems with what their business model in terms of ecology, etc. But if you're thinking about their place in the market, what they've been able to achieve in mere months compared to other companies that took years to get there is just because they're focusing on data instead of focusing on products.
I've got another anecdote, and I really love this one, so I'm just going to
Or
quickly share it before you come in. I remember this guy was saying in the Second World War, there was a Ministry of Defense analyst was telling me this. They started to investigate why the Spitfire planes, why so many were being shot. When they were shot down, they'd analyse why they were shot down. Yeah. And which German plane had attacked them, or were they shot by the ground, or what happened to all of this? Yeah. And then one dude walks in. They've been doing all of this analysis, and they did it all. They put it all together, and they went back to present it to their boss and say, we found out all this information about all of these planes that were unsuccessful in their rage. And he was like, yeah, that's great, but actually the analysis that's really important to us is, what was it the ones that were successful did? I want to know that. Not the ones that didn't make the mission. It's the ones that survived the mission. And they all scratch themselves and, oh, no one's ever asked that question before. We've always only ever looked at the ones where it went wrong. And it's like, well, exactly. It's like, and so, reversing the psychology and someone coming in and challenging the orthodox view again, they suddenly realise, they learned so much more by what the success of that mission was and why they were successful. And that's what they then went on to develop their skills for their pilots around what the successful ones had done and managed to
so
achieve.
if we pull out the common theme of what we're talking about here, right, is that most people don't like to talk about these things because they hate to think that they're part of it. But you're talking about obstacles that create bad learning, all right? Inability to adapt to it. And, at the top of the tree is groupthink, all right?
Yeah.
This is a work of Irving Janis, etc., and we can see that. It's a herd instinct that refuses to ask questions, will not challenge the status quo or the consensus, primarily driven by fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and yada, yada, yada. And the other one is, is a learned incapacity, a skilled unawareness. Those two things, learned incapacity, I prefer sometimes skilled unawareness, is because you've got this way that you don't ask questions. So then, if we rebrand soft skills, which kind of, it's cute, etc., but you can see why now, in the context of what we're talking about, it's called power skills. Why? Because it unlocks stuff. Right? It unlocks competitive advantage. And that's why when you move from soft skills to power skills, and you can see the behavior of asking the right questions. So the type of questions that you're asking lead to innovation, lead to creative thinking, driven by imagination, driven by curiosity, driven by, the detective Columbo, the one with the scruffy mark, a certain generation. He always asks these really stupid questions, and everybody thinks he's really dumb until they end up in, cuffs, heading towards the jail at the end, and they suddenly realize how brilliantly bright he is because he asks the dumb questions. the questions that nobody will ask, right? For fear of looking stupid.
And that's
But
a
they're the one.
really, really powerful tool to have, isn't it? Because how many
Oh,
times have you been in rooms where one person has gone and asked a dumb question and everybody else in the room going, oh, I'm so glad you asked that because I didn't have a clue what that bloke was talking about either.
yeah,
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 and it's like, because, but you need to develop that culture though, don't you, Toby? And
yeah,
that's the thing. Some people, and I always get, some people have the own inner confidence that they can bring to that, and they don't really give a damn whether that of looking a fool, or or challenging somebody in authority, and they've got that beat them, great. But a lot of us, me included, kind of aren't at times as confident as we should be about doing that. So you need to nurture that in your teams and in your environment in that organization. And as leaders of organizations, you need to ensure that the people around you and that you're leading, that are working in your organization, have the skills to ask those questions. But you as leaders and managers have the strength of, I don't know if you probably got a better way of describing it, but it's like the lack of ego, the lack of defensiveness around being challenged around what you said, are like completely open to it. Go, oh, that's a brilliant question. I'm really glad you asked me that.
So one of the things that we do in our training courses, right, and something that I'm pretty well married to as a set of techniques that I think really help teams, is De Bono's 6 thinking hats, which we've took to a new level. All right. Because what you just said, the secret of the game is you're not using ego. So therefore,
Yeah.
you don't own the consequences of your question, right? Because you're asking it from an objective point of view, from a viewpoint. If I'm in De Bono's 6 thinking hats, if I can actually say the word, it's helpful, isn't it? So you're talking about blow hat, which is process. Blow hat asks, well, what's the problem? All right. You can say I'm wearing a blue hat, I'm asking problem. You can lose the hats after a while. All right. Black hat is not like criticism. It's about, well, what's the risk?
Yeah.
What is the logical risk of me not doing this or us doing this? Okay. The green hat is considered to be creativity or innovation. What we've learned in the team is that we don't actually say that. It's the search for alternatives. Because people get sort of hung up on creativity and innovation thing, and they have to be old Picasso, Steve Jobs, or something, right? No, which is what's the alternative to what we're talking about? Red hat is where you stick your personal opinion. Red hat is, my gut's telling me this. This is what I think. It's the one time you can use I. It's an opinion, and it separates itself from the other hats by being personal. Which is the mistake most people make for the other hats, is it's personal. Whatever comes out my mouth, I'm going to own. And I'm going to go red if I get it wrong, and I'm going to look good if I get it right, whatever those mean. The yellow hat is about, people think it's about good and being positive. I suppose on one hand it can be, depending on what culture you're in. But it actually means, what value are you driving? What's the value proposition? What's the value that we get from it? What's the benefit? All right, separate from the features and advantage. And the last hat, the hat that brings us to the table here, that I was thinking about as we've had discussion in the De Bono, is the white hat.
Yeah.
White hat stands for data. All right, and white hat says, what is the evidence? All right, where did you get this from? It doesn't just say, well, what is the data? Do we need to go and get more data? What is it that we're missing? And I somehow, listening to the conversation when we've been speaking with data companies the last couple of days, I'm thinking, well, this would really work, particularly because there's this white hat stuff here, right, that most people sort of pay lip service to when they do 6 thinking hats, because they want to be on their creativity or the risk analysis. But the most important hat, all right, is white hat. Why am I making the decision based on this evidence? Or what evidence do I need to get to make this decision? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense. And being in the data science analyst, data providing profession for many years, I've always been amazed by how the data hasn't been challenged. And often I've sat in executive boards giving sort of presentations back on some of the analysis that my team's done or presenting, and I'm not challenged to the degree that I'm expecting and anticipating, and I feel deeply disappointed that that's the case, because often as well people think there's no, very rarely in business and in life is it things black and white. They're always about grey, right?
Yeah.
And you're leading to making decisions.
Yeah.
And when you're about decisions, you are about those six thinking hats. You're about looking at it from all those angles.
Yeah.
It's not a question of you ask someone to go off and look at do some analysis, come back and tell me, and they say these are these three options and choose. It's like you've got to use that whole process, and it involves everyone being involved in understanding that decision. I think that was interesting that you said around that which was the one, the intuition, the gut feel,
Red hat.
the red hat for making those propositions. And often when it's difficult decisions to be made, you'll end up just looking to the leadership just to make their kind of, well, I've got to make a decision, so I'll make this gut decision over here.
Yeah.
When three of the people around the table just think that's the worst idea you could ever possibly have. But he's the leader, he's the boss. Why does it bother me? What decision does he make? Because they don't actually have that. They're not in it as a sport. You know, if you did that in a sports team, yeah,
You did.
you did, yeah. You're not going to say, you know, and when it's penalty shootouts, and the team my wife watches, Brighton and Hove Albion, they lost a crucial match of the weekend on penalties. And you're thinking there that they would have spent a lot of time understanding as a team, how do we support each other taking a penalty? As a team, who's better at taking penalties? As a team, working on the mentality for understanding who that team. You'll have the captain of the team. Yeah, they might not even take the penalty. You might even go to the goalkeeper that traditionally doesn't even kick a ball on the pitch, but they may be brilliant at taking a penalty. You don't care in the team environment. You're using your best asset.
So what you're focusing on there, right, is because, you know, we're producing courses now, right? One of the reasons that Phil's here is expert knowledge specialist within this area is we're producing courses primarily that makes a marriage between data competency, as you guys call it, data literacy, data fluency, and power skills. And I think the thing that comes together like that is that the more and more is you teach six thinking hats, right, at a white belt level. Later on, when you become black belt level in it, they're just a series of questions that you've got formatted that you can interpret and use in different ways. You become more skillful at it. In the beginning, it's a bit cat sat on the mat, you know, etc.
Yeah.
But what you were just emphasizing then, in my opinion, is searching for alternatives. That's greener, right? You're searching for alternatives. Is there a different way of looking at it? Is there another angle that we can come in at it? And it's those alternatives done as a team, right? So the goalie comes in and takes the penalty. I remember, because it's always with the England team, isn't it, that you want to start crying when the penalty bit comes for the Europeans, etc. And they haven't, and they've done no training on penalties. And I'm like, what do you mean they've done no training on penalties? If history teaches us anything, then it's being good at penalties is one of the things you want to get good at, you know? Oh, yeah, we're going to do that. And in the next 3-4 years, we're going to get it doing penalties.
But also, as you know, is one of the things they've done is they've really focused on psychology and team psychology. And one of the things, and I think this is where I think there's a beautiful, you call it marriage, is blend between the kind of power skills, soft skills, and the kind of like the data, is that element around team. What I often see is a lot of the emphasis on the technical skills and the ability. Yeah. So if we go back to the football analogy, you could have the most gifted players in the world. Yeah. But that team doesn't operate and function as a team.
No.
Because they haven't got the right blend of character, the right blend of vision, the right blend of morals, the right blend of courage, the right
Yeah.
blend of ambition, all of those things. So actually, that's what actually really that's what really delivers it. And even when I've seen problems with culturally within organisations, they've often done the analysis, and it's often ended up, well, let's send some of the managers on some executive coaching. Well, that's just pointing at that individual again. Where does the actual team come together?
No, but and also
And that's the
executive
beauty
coaching.
of what you do in
Yeah.
sync. Yeah.
So, well, one of the things that made me think of, I had to go and check on the web, was it's Michael Jordan who says talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence win championships.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would have said collaborative intelligence, because I have a real problem with IQ as being the measure for whether people should make decisions or not. Because generally, in my opinion, the higher the IQ, you shouldn't be anywhere near making a decision.
Well, there's always a blend, isn't it? I think it's a blend, isn't it?
Well,
But talking about Michael Jordan and basketball, there's another one. Data. Who would think about it? But the sports now is run on data. Absolutely, and the amount of analysis that they do in sports is absolutely incredible. You'd never really think about. I would go again and say, it's a successful team in one of those high competitive, football, baseball, basketball. They have the stats. They have the analysis. They have the data.
They have someone else I would throw in there, Phil. I'll tell you what, in our research that we've come across, because we try to get people in the business world to understand that word sport, right? Because executive coaching typically means you're doing something wrong, so you need a coach. Whereas actually you're doing something right, therefore you get a coach in the sports world. But it's the concept of culture. Do you know what I mean? Concept of culture now for high performance culture is that everybody, not just the team that's on the pitch, so to speak, that's delivering, but the coaches, the staff, the people that run the ground, everybody's focused on us winning. And that creates this culture, this ambience that you can't put your fingers on, but it's that mental spirit, that mental setup, right, that moves you as an organization and an esprit de corps that we're going to do this. We're going to overcome all obstacles. We're going to be innovative. We're going to make this happen, And for many people in organizations, they have no concept of team and sport. Sorry, Eric.
I know. I was just going to say, I think that this is especially a problem when we're talking about data, but also sort of technology in general. There's this notion that lots of people have, which is I think it's a thing we get either through education or just culture in general, where anything that we relate to like a hard science, something that's based on facts and technical information, we relegate to the realm of IQ and totally forget that EQ is a part of it, right? Everyone I know who's not really interested in technology sees technology as this black box. They can use the front end of it. They don't want to know what's behind. They have no interest. And if you start discussing it with them, they're like, oh, it's too complicated. I don't want to know. And that's sometimes a massive issue, because they might need to know some of that. They don't need to be experts, but they might need to be able to interact with you on a certain level in order to be able to work as a team.
And I think there's also you're on the more sorry, Toby. Eric's on the more what I would class as, and this is no disrespect to the DevOps and architectural kind of community that's out there, but on the more enlightened end of it, because kind of from my experience as well, there is an element of those that are in the technology field, this is ours, and this is our domain, and that only we really understand it. I get this all the time, and they say, well, Phil, I can't really give you those admin rights to that because you might make a mistake, might do something wrong. I'm like, I trust my abilities. It's all right. I am the boss, by the way. I can actually access. I can look into a bit of SQL code and see what's going on. I won't do anything in there. But actually, others within the organisation knowing that and having the access to that. It's one of the biggest challenges organisations as well. Is sort of they talk about democratization of data, right? But actually, But then you have the IT, often the IT, well, and sometimes it's the compliance factor like this. You're not going anywhere near it. You're not going anywhere, and it's like, well, actually, the business is like, oh, I really need this information. I need
Yeah.
it soon. And so, well, you're gonna have to fill in a slip. You're gonna have to, ask for permission, and we'll see whether you're eligible.
And 6 months from now, you might be able to see the data.
Yeah, you might. And we'll give you a
overwritten.
report. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You guys, but I remember having this conversation with Phil. It's like the IT crowd, the comedy, when I have the box, right? And this is the internet, right?
Yeah.
Now, you could probably still use that analogy now for many executive boards. That's about as far as they get, in terms of understanding what technology is happening out there, because they're probably saying this is a video game, right? This whole immersive technology.
But it was an interesting time, wasn't it? We were playing the game. I think it was yesterday with a new team and some potential partners. And one of the people that came on to part of the game was like, "Oh, I don't like video games. I've never played them. I really don't understand it." But actually, I think you would agree, was probably one of the better players within the actual game. Completely got it, completely
loved it,
understood,
and didn't want to get off.
She had the EQ. It's like, it's not as mysterious. It's made to be this thing, but it's not that mysterious.
No.
Actually, it was like once you're in it, it's. I mean, there may be an age thing about it, but I found that quite fascinating. There was immediate kind of, it's not really kind of for me, this game. And you think of actually when you're in it, it's like, actually, it's totally fine. You get it. You really enjoy it. She loved it.
Because it's EQ as a team, and you're problem solving, and you're having a laugh, making mistakes, and it's generating, it's generating new ways of looking at things and so on and so forth.
No, I mean, this was a great discussion. I'm sure we'll sort of pick the subject up another time and dive.
Yeah, we could have part 2 of
exactly.
data as a team sport. I think
we'll have a few more of the part 2s than you think.
So
I was going to say, if you guys, people, if you liked it, I'm looking down there. Please press like and subscribe.
And as usual, if anyone has comments or questions, we'll be happy to interact with you. And thanks for being here, Toby, Phil, and we'll see you on the next one.
It's been a joy.
Bye, everybody.
Ciao.
Be good out there.